and welcome to another episode of the Cultras Football Podcast. It's me, James, and I'm joined by Michael, Theon, and a very special guest, a Barclays purist, a musical artist, a sorcerer supreme, and a performance athlete, and that is me reading off of his Twitter bio. I'm pleased to be joined by the brilliant Dwayne. Dwayne, thank you so much for coming on, man.
You much appreciated. I like that. Proper Barclays. I like that. I'm down.
Yeah, you are. You absolutely are. You responded to our Barclays World Cup the other week with a TikTok of your own, and an empowered and quite passionate, heartfelt video about the current state of the Premier League and how much Barclays, the sort of heritage of Barclays,
so far
meant to you. Yeah. What? I mean, let's kick things off. What, like, was it the World Cup thing that we did that inspired you to make that, or was it seeing everyone else's sort of reactions? What did it for you?
So it was your videos and just the comps as well. And I think normally during international breaks, the content is tiresome. So it's the whole who's better, Salah or Hazard, or people just start disrespecting Drogba, blah, blah. But this one, this one was different. And when I saw the convo, it's funny. I'm always the guy in my friend group that's always like, look, football's not the same. There's a lack of superstars. But like, I'm always like, believe me, when I jump on PS5 after this and I'm playing pro clubs, I'll bring up that conversation like again. That guy. So when I'm seeing these videos and I'm seeing yourselves just talk about proper like Barclays players, and then I'm seeing the comps, I'm like, no, it just doesn't hit the same. Like,
I think for me, it was the smile on your face on the TikTok when you were talking about it. Do you know what I mean? And that's what it is. It's the big beaming smile when you think of these old players and you think of the times we had, and that resonated with us. So but thank you for bringing light to that as well.
No, man, thank you for having me on, man. Thank you.
The one that struck a chord most with me, we'll stick it in somewhere here. Like nail on the head was teams like the goal that Southampton conceded against Brentford, which you'll have just seen if we don't get copyrighted for it, might do. But yeah, so like we were just talking about it just before we came on then, but like all your sort of new teams now all try and play passing football, all end up going straight back down, because the money gap and everything as well. But I think, like you were saying, there's no individual sort of styles no more. Like you had Wigan and whatever. Like you said on the video, ping it to the wings, mate. Yeah. What are you doing passing it? Shocking.
No, it's true, and I think it's obviously they'll keep on saying I'm an enemy of this guy, but pepperfied the game so much. Even when I say put it to the wings, when you think of wingers are not even wingers like that anymore. So what's happened is, as you said, that identity is just kind of gone. And it's like, you need that to stay up. Like, Southampton can't be trying to play like City or Arsenal. Like, respectfully, you don't have those type of centre-backs or sitting midfield play out. So just play to your strengths. But it's tiring. It's tiring.
It used to be a team would set up to play against a team that play like that and play differently. Yeah. And now it's two teams playing against each other. I don't know if you remember, maybe this time last year, Gary O'Neill on Monday Night Football, he did his tactical breakdown. And he's talking about his pivots, his sixes, his nines. Look at how my nines come deep here to mark the six and stuff like that. And his next comment in that same passage was, we only actually had 3 shots on goal that game, but I was happy. And do you know what I mean? And the Arsenal-Man City game, I think 5 months ago, title clash. 3 shots on goal all game, 976 passes.
No, just what you want to see.
Yeah. No individualism, no entertainment is the.
No,
where's the directness coming from? I mean, I played FIFA 11 yesterday for the first time in a while. I love FIFA 11. Now, I was with what's happened with the Barclays stuff. I was going through all the teams. I was like, oh, do you know, I'll play Stoke. It's one of the I was on semi-pro as well. It's one of the hardest games of FIFA I've ever played. You've got a spine of Rory Delap. You've got a spine of Rory Delap, Wilson Palacios, and Peter Crouch.
Yeah.
Everington and Pennant on the wings. But it made it so fun because there was like, there's no pace here. I'm literally just going to have to like lump it up top.
Yeah, throw in.
Yeah. Which is pretty much what Pulis's Stoke was like. But it goes back to your point in your video where you were saying that, every team felt like it had identity. You know, it feels like we've lost that. You know, like, can they do it on a cold Wednesday night in Stoke? Isn't really a thing anymore.
Yeah.
Teams like West Brom and, you know, Fulham, and I don't know. Like, again, like even like Park the Bus seems to kind of be on its way out a little bit. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. And I just think I think for us, I always say that as fans, we deserve to be entertained. And it's got to a point where I think because of the data and because of everything, football is almost like a science now. And it shouldn't be that.
Yeah.
Like from when, even to take it to a national stage, from when Ronaldinho, the player everybody grew up applauding, is saying, I'm not watching Brazil. From when Brazil are producing players like Martinelli and Richarlison, something is wrong in the ether. Like, you know what I mean? There's something like seriously wrong. So as you said, when you bring it now back to the Prem, it is that because of that individuality. That's why we have so many Barclays men. Like there was just so many cult heroes, and we don't really have that like that anymore. Like it's sad, man. Like it's sad.
I think like, even if you look at, like you were just saying about City, like it wasn't that long ago, like with Andros Townsend's Crystal Palace.
Yeah,
they used to go to City and beat them sort of semi-frequently. Like now, like I've seen articles like today, like before it was going, can anyone actually beat City? Well, right, we're in for this, are we? Great, just all season.
Like I say, individuality has been massively taken out of the game, and I think the best thing that highlights that is you look at Anthony and Richarlison. Them two tried a little bit of showboating, and the press, the fans. But if it was up to them, they'd have given more prison time than bloody you Edwards, wouldn't they? You know what I mean? It was like they were public enemy number one. He's just tried a little step over. Like Ronaldinho used to flick it over people's heads and roll it around his back, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anything like that has gone, and it's absolutely vilified from the game. Haaland will score two, but he'll have scored one with his left foot from outside the box, and Pep will come off, and he was shouting at him at half time because he's ruined his left-sided XG. Do you know what I mean? And it's just absolutely ruined it. As a spectacle for people like myself, and I'm sure you guys agree, it's not fun to watch anymore.
It's not.
No, it's reflecting the attitude of like some of the culture at the minute with like FIFA. Like, don't get me wrong, it's like amazing that Haaland, and like from a statistical perspective, like it's unreal what Haaland is doing. But it is like, you know, whacking it on beginner and just like running right, and I've got. I know, but I'm not trying to say. I don't know. I'm not trying to say like there's not much you can do to like stop that unless they get found guilty of the 115 charges. But yeah, like anyone on their day in the sort of Barclays era, there was always an upset team that, you know,
it was a matchup. It wasn't just a match
like,
against City. It was a matchup. Two teams going head to head. Players going head to head. You'd maybe Catamol wouldn't have been in for 3 weeks, but you think, oh, I'm going to stick him in to go on De Bruyne. I'm going to let him know I'm there within 2 minutes. Do you know what I mean?
Whereas 15, 20 years ago, you're at a peak where like football and fan culture celebrated the flair and celebrated the individual, and, you know, like the Yoga Benito advert in the airport, that Nike POV advert where the guys playing for Arsenal was like a really like high point for me, and like that idea of like you could do this, and like people talking about people like Pirlo and Ronaldinho and R9 in the same like. Whereas now it's just kind of like, who has the most of this? Who has the most of this? Therefore, they are the best. And it just, I keep repeating myself, but I think it's an important point to make. Is that like, I don't know, other alternatives are available.
Yeah, and it's like, even when you listen to some of the pros speak, even Fabregas, even Messi, who's the GOAT, like he's even said, if I was a youth now, the amount of information that I would have to take in, it wouldn't even been fun. And that's what Fabregas says. He goes, we've taken the freedom away. And I think that's where the individuality used to come from. It was the players doing things on the spur of the moment. It's not like you can still coach. And it's not to say, I will always say now, I think the average player now is definitely better than the average player back then, but the ceiling is now lower. Because there's so much information, we just don't get that spur of the moment. And like the goals we saw at the weekend, the guys, they were definitely scrolling through the Barclays, man.
They were, weren't they? Yeah. I saw that video as well. That was brilliant.
They were, because they said, they said, we can't do this, yeah? Let me show you. So we need more of that. But yeah, that just spur of the moment, hitting it on the edge of the box, or I'm a winger, I'm going to take on this fullback, just doesn't happen because, oh, you lost possession this time. And it's like, you're making it boring for the fans. I get it for the coaches and academies right now, etc. But for the fans, as you said, it's just not a good spectacle.
What's it? Jude Bellingham said in the Champions League final, didn't he? That like Ancelotti lets them play with a bit more freedom and not maybe sort of there probably is like a lot of data involved, but comparatively, maybe less than what's sort of the norm. But like, I think as well with transfers as well, like people obviously get a lot less. I think like transfers used to be a lot bigger of a thing. Obviously, you've got Fabrizio Romano ruining them 6 months before they happen. There's that element as well. But like, I think there's even like with Mbappe to Madrid, it's sort of like because everything's such a system. And everything is less reliant on one person. It is a lot less like, it's not like a Beckham going to Real Madrid or something. Like it's like, or Figo going from Barca to Real or whatever, or any of the other transfers that happened in the last 20 years. But like it does just feel like sort of it is more of a team game, which I suppose is good, but then it's at the expense of freedom. And
I liken it to table football, how the defence move in a line. If they made table football on arced lines, it would be they're moving like sections like that, don't they? As I've said a few times, a choreographed dance is what football's become now.
Ancelotti, I feel like there's a reason why Ancelotti has coached so many Ballon d'Or winners, because he does allow players to express themselves. So I remember even the Arsenal-Liverpool game, when Liverpool were up there, and I think it was 0-0. And I remember I came on PS5 party chat and everybody was talking about, the centre-back pairing, Saliba, Konate, and Van Dijk. I said, boys, we are talking about a title clash and we are talking about 4 centre-backs. What is happening? Where the game is gone? Like, we're not talking about wingers. We're not talking about strikers. We are talking about centre-backs. Like,
it's the only way they can slot centre-backs in now, because one of the main ways you'd slot a centre-back into a conversation is a big rise like a salmon from a corner and ping it in. But that's gone, because short corners, because they take that many short corners now, they very rarely beat the first man. So Jonas Olsen would be useless. That's why you're seeing players like Martinez at Man United becoming one of the best centre-backs. Like Bear Dues, he tackles well. He would be a Barclaysman, but he should be a right-back. If he was a right back in a Barclays era, he'd be talked about forever. But now he's a centre back. You don't need the height; you just need the skill or the ability to get your shirt pulled and go down. And I was want to foul.
I think they found that they did like statistical stuff, and they found like you've got about a 5% chance from scoring from a corner. So they went, right, let's make it 0 and not even bother.
That's more of a chance than John Duran at the weekend, though, wasn't
it? When Gabriel scored in the Northland Derby, I was like, it was like a nice sort of like, what's been happening on Twitter the past few weeks. It was like, they do that.
He definitely opened a safe to buy ISA and lumped one in from a corner.
Gabriel's drafting checks with Barclays at the minute, just for scoring a simple header from a corner. I mean, someone will tweet me now and go, I think you'll find that on match day 1 there was. I'm sorry, I can't remember that. Is there a particular thing you missed about like that era of Barclays? Like, is it pretty much what you summarised in the video? Are there any sort of things you possibly don't see now that you saw back then, or vice versa?
And now it was just the cult heroes. That's what it was. So match of the day was exciting, and even though you knew a couple teams were going for the league, there was still a title race. Like if Man United won the league, it wasn't until the last kind of 3 games. And it's not to say that doesn't happen with obviously City and Liverpool, but when you look at City winning the last 4, it's kind of like that's kind of the rivalry, and then the gap between the Championship and Prem has got bigger. So the same 3 teams should go back down anyway. So it's like back in the day, when I was saying back in the day, sounding like that guy, but there was just hero.
We're that guy, don't worry.
This is that channel.
Yeah, no. Like Edison, you had Yakubu. Those just different heroes you'd see week to week, because I wouldn't say it was more unpredictable. It was just more fun to watch. Like the cult heroes made it fun. Like you didn't have to support Blackburn to be like, okay, what is Morten Gans Pedersen going to do on the left wing? I didn't need to support Middlesbrough to be like, okay, what's Yakubu going to do today? It was just fun watching those players. And it's like the only players that kind of give me that vibe are Wissa and then Wemmer from Brentford. Nobody else. Eze, Palace. But those
Eze,
are kind
yeah,
of
Eze as well.
Eze's
Yeah.
one.
But
But yeah,
yeah, he has gone.
yeah, well, it was the players, the cult heroes. I was like, okay, cool, man. I'm watching match of the day for this player. Like, I don't really get that anymore.
No.
Yeah. And you're a Man United fan, so let's touch back on the Barclaysman bit. Can you name your best Man United Barclaysman for a club that might not be considered to have
Oh, there's a
lot
few.
of them?
There's a few.
I've made a list, and I think there's a few you might miss out. So
Barclays. So if we're talking Barclays, they can't be like up there world class.
Well,
it can be.
Berbatov, for instance, that would count.
Because if we're going Barclays, man, a guy that for me was underrated would you have Quentin Fortune.
Got him on the list. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a big one. The thing is, because of injuries, I don't know if it counts, but I think Louis Zaha.
Yeah.
But I think he was just the injuries. That left foot, like he was
That
good.
left foot, yeah.
He was like Yakuba as well. He was just like class everywhere he went. Like 15 goal seasons at Everton, Fulham.
Yeah.
United.
Yeah. No, decent. You had obviously Eric Jemba. I think that's a
classic. Oh, Eric Jemba.
Always pops up as well. What a guy. What a guy.
I can't believe he went out in like the quarterfinals of the. He should have been a finalist, semi-finalist.
I know. Yeah, I was
Jemba.
Like genuinely, you had Gabriel Ainsa. There was a couple.
James's favourite. Yeah.
We had a couple Barclays, man. I'm definitely running out of names, but those are the three that come.
If I give you a couple off my list, then, and you can tell me if you rate them as Man United Barclaysmen. So I've got at the top of the list David Bellion.
Oh,
yeah.
I've got Gabriel Obertan and Bibic.
Well,
he's not on. Kleberson.
Yeah, Kleberson, definitely.
Dong Fangzhuo.
Oh, Dong Fang Zhao, what a player!
Dong Fang Zhao. Sorry, my pronunciation is not right.
Your Mandarin's not as good as mine, but yeah.
I'll always be corrected. That's fine. Anderson.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, Anderson was bought as the wonder kid when he first came.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he? Yeah.
Just give up to
he just loved kebabs. That's Anderson.
He loved the night out in Manchester, didn't he?
That's the guy. Another guy who looks like he loves kebabs and a few other things on a night out. Darren Gibson.
Oh, I have seen Darren Gibson. I did see. Well, not to publicly allege anything, but I was once out in Altrincham, and his mate was absolutely sniffed off his head. So I'm just
Had a good lunch on him though.
The next two, Thomas Kuszczak.
Yeah.
What a player.
Rodrigo Possebon.
Yeah. No, you're bringing
Zoran Tosic.
Tosic was. I always thought he should have been.
Yeah, he was signed as a bit of an up and comer, wasn't he? As was the next one, Minuccio.
Oh yeah, he's the only Angolan I think still to play in the Premier League still.
Yeah.
Giuseppe Rossi on your list.
Oh, I haven't put him on. No, I haven't. I count him. The last four I've got on my list: Anders Lindegaard, Alexander Butner, Tyler Blackett, and James Wilson.
Tyler Blackett.
So, in the youth, he was meant to be. He just never kind of.
Well, he qualifies as a Barclaysman because he lined up for Man United on New Year's Day and was sick on the centre spot before taking
James Wilson.
James Wilson, yeah.
Yeah.
So you have got a lot.
No one's mentioned Bebe.
Oh yeah.
No, I thought he was too mainstream to kind of.
No one's mentioned the man who pretty much won them the league in 08-09, Federico Macheda.
Yeah. And
never seen again after that.
Januzaj was another one as well. Adnan Januzaj.
His career's peaked now, playing with Ollie McBurney at Las Palmas. So.
he put so much pressure on that kid. He was never going to go.
I think that's a common theme, not to besmirch or start anything with Man United fans, but that has been a common theme with Man United fans for a long time. I call it the Welbeck to Rashford scale, and there's been a lot of players since Welbeck came through up to Rashford now, where they come through, they might have a couple of good games, and everyone says, right, this guy's world class, he's going to be the best ever, and if he doesn't, it kind of doesn't go right for them.
Probably right now.
Yeah, I think Garnacho's the next one to get. Garnacho's the next one to get Januzaj because he's obviously a fucking class player, but just like if everyone just shits on him forever, then
just let footballers enjoy football. Chicharito, I saw him play.
Garnacho's another one. That goal last year, that shows that Garnacho could liberate us from system.
This is the funny thing. I do think to add some light to the situation, I do think we can be saved by the youngsters. I think you've got Lamau, you've got Nico Williams, you've got Musiala. There's a couple players that I
actually,
watching that can
that's
do.
a great point, actually.
I just hope it's not coached out of them. You have Witz as well that plays in Leverkusen. There's a couple youngsters where I'm like, okay, save us.
I seen one of Yamal's goals at the weekend where he trapped back, won the ball back, turned around and put it in the net. Very similar to young Messi, if I'm honest. But yeah, I think you've got a good point there, actually, with the youngsters.
I think it will like sort of. It's like, if you remember sort of dominant eras of football, like say AC Milan maybe, that was like dead defensive.
Still a great team.
Eventually though, dominance always ends, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Hopefully the football system collapses.
Even if you look at positions, we're talking about wingers. I think even City that won the league, for them to win the Champions League, they had to go get an old-fashioned, even though he's a machine, they had to get a number 9. So kind of going back to, you need a number 9, which then would mean you need wingers, and hopefully we start to make that transition again.
We're starting to see a very popular thing of like big lads up top, like Haaland. Sort of, there's almost every big club has a sort of at least 6 foot striker now.
It seems to be a fashion trend, doesn't it? Like when players get a player, people try and replicate it with anything. Hence why, like, Man U signed Højlund, thinking he was Haaland. But I did see something upon looking at my data analysis.
It's so Mario and Wario, both fucking Manchester clubs, having a Haaland and a Højlund.
Yeah.
I seen a video on TikTok before when I was looking at data analysis terms, which I can run through in a minute. But there was a kid's done a video saying he thinks that one of the ways forward to progress football is maybe trying 2 up top. It's like, has that never been done? Get Defoe and Crouch up top. Don't have your, like, I don't know if you saw Joshua Zirkzey's interview when he signed for Man U, and he said, I'm not really a goal scoring striker. I'm not a 9, I'm not a 10, I'm a 9.5. And what kind of bollocks is that? You don't want to be hearing that. You don't want to be hearing that off your new star striker, do you?
I'm a 9.5 million destined for Sunderland. It's probably what that is.
It's the positions again. We need that, and hopefully it does come back around, because we play number 9.5. Or I'm not. It's like when Gabby Jesus, when Arsenal are going for the title, I don't really like to score. Like, come on, read the room. Like,
Yeah.
For the first title since 2003, and you're coming out that light.
I think you made a great point with Eze at Palace. Like, I think maybe now in like the next 5 years, that Palace team will be the sort of torch carriers for what ends up being the new Barclays. Like, I was thinking back to that, just then of like, people like Jason Punchin, Mile Jedinak, and Milhojevic, Dwight Gale, Zaha even. It kind of feels like they're kind of the sort of representatives at the minute.
Zaha did the proper Barclays thing as well, of going to Turkey. None of this Saudi nonsense. You go to Turkey. You go to Turkey and see out your days at either Galatasaray or Fenerbahce. That's what you do.
They do. Palace do just great. They just have a very good academy that creates youngsters. And even it's another guy, even before we went recording, I was like, Jack Grealish was on the way to being a Barclays man. And he's fantastic. He's won the treble. I love that for you. But Grealish at Villa was different gravy. Like, the proper throwback, even with the short socks and whatnot. It goes back to identity. Just add that, once again, that individuality and that star quality that we just don't see.
Picking a ball up and going forward with it, looking for something, instead of turning around and looking to see what else so he can make a move and receive another pass. Like, players of that era, like Okochas, Cantonas, Letiziers, you don't get them anymore. And there was one comment in the England game, and it was about Rico Lewis, and it was like, you can tell he's being pepped because he's somebody gone up the line and he'd come inside instead of overlapping. He's just overlap him, please, Rico. Like, he just came inside. He'd just overlap him, go for it. Like you put in one of your TikToks, get chalk on your boots, whip it in. You know what I mean?
I just think sometimes it's necessary, and I feel like when you're going for those titles, I do think, just like when you're looking at Arsenal now, they'll regret not getting a striker, because sometimes you just need that change. They're pretty football nice, but there's a reason that City got Haaland. Like, sometimes you just need to just put it in a box. You need that.
I think that's probably what will stop Arsenal winning the league unless City get a points deduction, just like having, because they drew a load of games with not having like someone who can just fucking stick it in.
Yeah. But then you've got stats like.
Sorry, James, you go.
Then you've got stats like, who was it mentioned this week about? It might have been Anthony or about like he had the most yards. This is one of the stats. He travelled the most yards going forward with the ball.
Wow.
Which is like once you I don't know, like overanalyze and peel that many layers off, that like that's a stat that becomes like relevant. It's like, well, you know, like any winger can go forward with the ball loads throughout a game. But like you said, Mike, what do you do with it? What's that like final pass? What's that bit of flair that's going to get you in those?
That's
positions?
it. But speaking of,
he's another candidate for a Barclays man actually. But he played for Borough for a while, and he never had any end product. But in terms of like excitement, it's the last time I remember watching it. Watching one specific player and going, "Ooh," like the most times as Adama Traore, like he gets it. He gets it, and he fucking runs.
You have no idea what's going to happen, but something might. And
and it might be a total disaster, and you can see and you go up the other end, but like, it's entertaining.
On your analysis terms there, James, I had a look prior to at some, and obviously you've got your XG, and I'm sure you all know this, it's expected goals. But I found another couple, and I'm fucking raging, right? So, so if I was a coach and I was coaching kids, I'd show them, I'd go home and watch a compilation of Romario, King of the Chips. Go home and watch Zidane, how he took a ball down, looked up, turned, ran forward. But no, what they're doing is they're sat around a cinema screen or a laptop, and they're looking at, do you know what XT is? XT? That's expected threat. Okay.
Expected what?
Threat. So now players are playing with fear. The next one is GSAA. Anyone know what GSAA is?
Goals suspected, attempted.
No. Well, it's the reverse of XG. It's the goal saves on average. Oh. So it's a goalkeeper's got a GSAA.
So that's just saves then.
Just saves. Yeah. So, but like you could be up against a keeper from the past, like Shea Given, who was a supreme shot stopper. He could pull saves off out of anywhere. They've got different abilities. I don't get that anyway. SCA. Tell me how this is different from an assist or whatever we were saying before, but that's a shot created action.
Damn.
What?
Yeah, a shot created action. We've also got a GCA, which is a goal created action.
Oh.
Yeah, wow. We've got a PPDA, which this one I had to go sit in a cold room and have a drink of water for 5 minutes. But this is passes per defensive action.
Fucking hell. So that's like
making passes whilst the tackle's happening.
So I'm not sure. I think it's more
like
how many passes are completed before they get tackled or something. I don't know.
Yeah, a ratio of like how many passes before you fucking give it away, basically. Yeah, that's fucking insane.
It's not. Go watch Romario.
Yeah.
Chipping. You know
put it in that end, just the Sean Dyche. Put it in that end. Stop it going in that end.
Exactly.
Easy.
Like JJ Kocher and Kanu, they were looking at all that, were they? Do you know what I mean? And
it's funny that Sam Allardyce was one of the first people to bring like analysis and data.
So
and stuff.
This is one of the questions I was going to ask to yourself, Dwayne. Really, obviously, tiki-taka is the tactic that Pep invented. Even though Howard Kendall was using that same formation with Everton in 1992. And that at the time was a masterstroke. That team was unbelievable. And it was different, and that's why it was unbelievable. But do you think that went too far, and that has caused so what potentially saved football at the time and made it a lot more entertaining? Because you had players in there like David Villa. You're not going to take individualism off him. That is what it's gone too far. Basically,
I think what happened is, and it does happen in cycles, because we were old enough to remember when Mourinho came in and changed the league from the 4-4 Christmas tree formation. Now, the only difference is there was still individual talent, there was still stars then. But I think with Pep's side, what happened is, I think he became so good and so dominant, people and coaches had no choices to follow. So The only thing is with that is that you're not as good as him, so you're like creating a diet version of that. And because we're in 2020, we're going into 2025, he's still here. We've had like the FA changed their whole structure around that. They wanted to play that type of football, and boom, straight away England kind of lost their identity, and that didn't help them in major tournaments. So I think it kind of went too far, and everybody just kind of copied, and nobody's really. It's only kind of maybe Klopp that had his own identity to compete with him.
Yeah.
Like,
but I think that Liverpool were very easily not beatable, but negated under Klopp, and that was by teams who, what's the common term nowadays, is low block. Sorry, what we used to call sitting deep. If teams sit deep against Liverpool under Klopp, that would negate Klopp's tactics, and teams would get a result against Liverpool. But people don't seem to do that against Man City. Do you know what I mean?
Well, they do, but it just doesn't. It's just like it's just passes. It's just death by 1,000 passes. Isn't it?
Death by 1,000 passes. Yeah.
It kind of feels like that Spain 2010 is kind of maybe your Project Zero. It's like, as good as it was to like watch this, like, wow, what on earth is this? Like, this is completely revolutionizing football, and the amount of like legends from 1 to 11 in that team, plus Johan Capdevila. No, I'm joking. It's great.
I'm joking. It's
sorry
great.
if you're watching,
Johan. Yeah.
Sorry if you're watching Senor Capdevila. This school pay.
But then after that, like, obviously, you never know. You never knew like what was going to happen. But yeah, it kind of then, like you say, clones.
Yeah.
This strategy of like, oh, I really love watching that, and now it's just like Fionn said, it is death by 1,000 passes. It's like a 21st century pass back rule in many ways. It's like teams playing it out for a draw, or like just.
I had an idea that's like it is sort of your dad would not be happy with it at all because it's bringing another rule in ruling. But I reckon like basketball have a shot clock, right? When you take it over halfway, right?
Yeah.
You've now got 30 seconds to have a fucking shot before you fucking piss them out.
Well, that's coached out of them, isn't it? Like one of the things that kills me is the full excitement out of a game is gone. What is a player going to do? The only time you ever hear it nowadays, you used to hear it all the time. Ooh, yes, like. The only time you ever hear that now is when Trent Alexander-Arnold pings a 45-yard ball across the pitch to a fella who's unmarked.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They don't do a ball over top for Shane Long anymore, do they? Do you know what I mean? And you got
Shane Long was the king of
your old centre back, McCauley, running back. Oh, I can't catch this fucker. Like that's completely gone. And I'm just having a look because it intrigued me. Have you seen the top 10 for the Ballon d'Or in 2009 compared to?
That's another thing, and that just goes to show you that the ceiling is lowered just for stars. When you look at the names, it's like, wow, the dip in quality is insane.
We get told everyone's world class as soon as they make a one-time appearance, but in this top 10 in 2009, Gerrard 10th, Drogba 9th, Rooney 8th, Zlatan 7, Kaká 6, Eto'o 5, Iniesta 4, Xavi, Ronaldo, Messi. They're all world-class names.
Elite talents, like elite.
Man.
It's Cannavaro the last defender to win it.
Yeah, I think it must be.
5'10" centre half as well, so it can be done.
Wow.
It was, yeah, because you've had like I think what was it? Modric was the last. Is Modric the last
non-Ronaldo Messi player to win it?
Yeah, Lewandowski. Well,
oh, of course, did he win it?
Well, I think I don't know if he won it, but like I saw something that's like they sort of give it him because it was like, only is in 2020 because he won everything. And
yeah,
not to be too cynical, but like I do worry like in 10 years' time, question for you, do you think like in 10 years' time is there anything fond we'll look back on about this current era of football?
No, we're only going to look at we're only going to look at Haaland's goal scoring record. That's all that's what we're going to look at, and it will be a shame. You will have bits here and there. I said if Eze lives up, if you have Mbeumo, Wissa, those players, but in terms of like stars, even on a European level, I don't think so. Like that's why when you look at Vinicius, I love Vinicius just because he reminds me of that throwback Brazilian player that we had.
Yeah.
But now Hendrick's getting dog's abuse because he wants to try and do that. I know he's a bit loud, but he is one of them throwbacks. And I think we are a bit cynical in a way if we do look back because there was always dominant teams, your Chelsea's, Man United, that little bit of Arsenal. but it was the teams around it and the way things went. I just think that, well, it has gone too far. I remember years ago, I'm going to quote a philosopher here, but Carl Pilkington on the Ricky Gervais podcast years ago, he said, we don't need to invent anything anymore. We've got everything we ever need. We're not gonna like when someone invented the fork that we use daily. Like, we're not gonna have anything, and that's kind of what football became in around 2015. It just crap on top of crap, really.
For Pep to leave, and it's harsh, but I feel like when that power vacuum's open,
yeah. Well, that's what was great about Leicester's title campaign, wasn't it? I think who left in 2014-15? Chelsea won the league. Was it Mourinho who left?
Yeah, Mourinho left.
And then I think Moyes must have still been at United.
Yeah, and this is when Arsenal were top in January, and
But it seems obviously we've started a pandemic into professional football with the Barclaysmen, and hopefully Guardiola's an anti-vaxxer. So, and then
just when you're that good, and it's not to say obviously he's an elite coach, 150 chance side, like what he's done is nuts. But it's just when you're that dominant and that good, like they can, like even this season, I'm watching Haaland, I'm like, who can stop this team? Like. And it's like if they win 5 in a row, it's like, all right, like you've now peaked your powers. Not let someone else have a go, but let's like open it up to so it can do.
Yeah, I think James will be able to push on it further because he's mentioned it before. But we're quite keen on being not pigeonholed as modern football haters, and definitely not pigeonholed as the creators of nostalgia. But it is just that which we have been accused of.
We are for now.
We are for now, and we're going to run that train as long as it goes. But yeah.
Well, in 2 years, when there's a wave of pet nostalgia, we'll pretend this never happened. You'll bring back passing football. What happened?
It's such a disparity in the sense that, like quite literally, the identity of Man City has changed. I mean, like the badge has changed, the ownership has changed. That, like, when you look at a club's history, in terms of maybe sort of garnering success, I'm trying to think of an example here of like a team that maybe has just sort of plodded along, couple of cups, and then boom, like we've won the league. Or
Leverkusen.
May not have won the league, and then like, we had a really good cup run, or like really made a good run in the Champions League. Whereas like there's so much disparity between that City team of, let's say, 2008 to now, or maybe 2007 to now. That it's genuinely almost two different teams, like who you could support. I don't know, like you've kind of removed, you've saturated, you've removed all that's really fun about football, to the point that when I was watching videos and watching players like Michael Johnson or Alano, one half of me is like, oh, this is amazing, this is fantastic. And then your half's like, this just, I don't know, it just doesn't.
I miss that purple Lecoq Sportif kit.
It's mental. It's like, it kind of felt like, it was really fun when you signed Robinho. Oh, you got Tevez. No, stop now. It's gone too far. No. Like, it's like you've kind of taken manager mode to like.
I feel it's like made it like a science now, and it's just when you're that good, it's like eventually, like, and that's the thing. As a player, I understand. Like, even when you're talking about Rico Lewis, he is going to be a baller, cool. But it's like, I think as fans, we pay for entertainment. When we're looking at elite sportsmen, it's like, okay, we're looking at you to do something the average person can't. And like when Duran bangs it in from 30 yards, we're like even Jamie Redknapp after that game is like, I don't care about XG. Like, we don't see, like, Jamie Carragher's on commentary saying we don't see goals like this anymore. And it's like, we just want to be. I think
it's all right, Jamie.
It's literally just entertainment at the end of the day. And as you said, you don't want to come across as a hater of the modern game, because technically these players are amazing. I will never take that away from them. But it's just, we just want that. Okay, when you're a winger 1-on-1, take the guy on. Do something. Something for us to stand up at a stadium and be like,
I think as well, like with I think this format of the Champions League is going to be very short-lived, because just before we came on, I had a look at I had a quick look at my bets, not going well, because I bet on PSV and the 4-0 down. Like, if you look at PSV versus Juventus, Bayern versus Dinamo Zagreb, Aston Villa versus Young Boys. These are all just like massive massive mismatches that like one looked like pre-season games. Like Champions League, if I'm, you used to always have a group of death where it was like there's someone big's going out here early. And I think they should get rid of the all the reject teams get to go into the Europa League as well. I think it should just be right now. Fuck off.
It's more of a. Is it just there's too much money in the game? As stupid as that sounds.
It is. It's become. And this is why I don't really want to offend anybody or be pigeonholed into a hate modern football. But we are customers now. So even though it goes back years and years and years and years, like for example, Liverpool, the Liverpool Football Club, but now they're a worldwide brand. Do you know what I mean? So and people they talk about where's your famous atmosphere and all that. There's hardly any Liverpudlians in the ground creating an atmosphere. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of people on day trips coming over from X, Y, Z.
Americans,
which is, but that's the club's interest in how many can we get in, not how many of much of the community. Which, in fairness to Man City, they've improved the community around there quite a lot. Although they have monopolised youth development football by buying all the players from around the world and then farming them out to their feeder clubs and then buying them back at a cut price, arranged thing. But they have done a lot for that local area, and that, I mean, is the one shining light within that. And I think if clubs were to look at themselves and look inwards, I think that could be one thing where maybe they could improve and they could bring football back a little bit.
I think
and make it for the working man again, like they do in Germany.
It's that thing of having that. It's more profitable for Liverpool to have the family from America come over once this season and spend 200 quid in the club shop because Dave from Bootle's not doing that, is he?
No.
So
because it's now not the in thing to wear your club's colours, is it? You almost get berated for wearing your club's colours at the game and things.
Yeah.
I think like those fixtures Theo mentioned 30 years ago, they could have probably gone like either way. Like whereas now, like, again, another example might have been like the sort of demise of the Eredivisie, like sort of around about when, I don't know, like maybe after Ajax winning in '95, but then obviously Bergkamp coming over and
they've always sell the players. It's
Well, look at Ajax team in 2019, for example. Like how many is still there? Like, it's
how many did any good at other clubs? I don't know if Van der Beek was there.
Imagine being part of a fan base where your outlook is like, oh well, in 2 years' time, these guys are all going to go.
It's funny, actually. I was watching a clip. It came up. The podcast is called Heroes and Humans, but the guy's an Ajax fan, and he said he was in the stadium when Mora scores the hat trick, and it dawned on him, obviously, when he's got the last goals, that we might not ever see this again. Like, and that was literally his fault. And it goes to your point, James, about that. So it's that's one thing I'll give the Premier League in terms of marketing and branding. They've always been. That's why the Premier League is basically the Super League now, and the money just got stupid. But I think it's just as you said, they're making so much money. Like, for us to have this group Champions League thing commercially, I get it because they were competing against the Super League. But once again, for the consumer and the fan, it's almost too much football. And I never thought I'd say that as a fan.
because they're playing
too fast.
It's 8. It's like instead of playing, they're always whinging about fixture congestion, obviously. But like,
Rodri's come out today and said that something needs to be looked at. So
I agree with him. 70 games a season is crazy.
Yeah, it's mad.
So 8, but like they have to play 8 times minimum. So even if you lose your first 3 and you've got no chance of going through, basically, you've still got to play another 5. Although I think it's supposed to be like there's no dead rubbers in it, like that's but it's just like, does anybody other than people who support Sturm Graz or Brest want to see Sturm Graz and Brest in the fucking Champions League?
But again, so if you go back to the days pre-YouTube, pre-Google, it was when the teams like that came over and you saw that nippy French winger for the first time that excited you for your teams like Brest.
Exactly.
So it does still provide that little bit of intrigue when you see them. I didn't get to watch enough of it earlier, but Villa played Young Boys, and I thought I'll watch it with my hipster head on and try and watch some Young Boys players that That sounds wrong.
Try and watch some young boys, mate. What's going on?
I'll quickly segue away from that. Of James's point, I just loaded up the 1920 Ajax squad, and I'm not up on their current squad, but I'll just read the names out on it. I don't think anyone's still there. So Bruno Varela, Per Shears, Joel Veltman, Brighton, Edson Alvarez,
2020.
West Ham.
He said 1920. I thought, I bet there's nobody still there.
I bet there's nobody there. Donny van der Beek, David Neres, Klaas-Jan Huntelaar, Dusan Tadic, Quincy Promise, Mazraoui, Daley Blind, Labiad, Lisandro Martinez, Ziyech, Lassina Traore, Onana, Ecclescamp, Serginho Dest, Ryan Gravenberch, Tagliafico, Ryan Babel. There's none of them still there. That was 4 years ago, and the squad turnover is ridiculous.
The Hakim Ziyech transfer is a very interesting one and a real problem in the sense that, like, when Bergkamp went from Ajax to Arsenal, you were like, "Fuck, this is this is big," or
and he started off quite slow at Arsenal as well, but they gave him time.
Yeah, even when Suarez came to like Liverpool from Ajax, it was like, "Oh, okay, like here we go."
Yeah.
Whereas now, like Ziyech was went to Chelsea, barely played, and is now just like almost like a tax write-off. Like, oh, we'll buy him because we know we can sell him down the line and like
send him to Saudi.
Exactly.
Out.
I think that's what even happens with the lack of because when you read that Ballon d'Or list, I was thinking, do we have that anymore? But what happens is because everything is so coached and so choreographed, if a player has like half a good season or one good season, automatically they're running to like 70 mil because we haven't seen anything like this before. And that player will come to the Prem and they don't adjust, and it's like, oh, well, we bought you for like when you look at some of the figures, it's like a Mudryk, or even when Arsenal got Pepe had never played European football before.
Yeah, 90 million quid.
They spent like 75 million on him because of like potential. Like, the transfer thing is interesting. Yeah,
transfer fees have ridiculously changed as well, because you're a bit cooler than us, Dwayne. You play pro clubs and things. I was reading a Match magazine from 2011 earlier, and it had the ideal signings for Man City in 2011-12, and it said Robert Lewandowski, but it might cost them 25 million to get him, which could be an off-put. Like 25 million gets you Aston Villa's third choice goalkeeper nowadays. You know what I mean? It's balmy the way.
There's a huge like for City and stuff. It's like it's why City still have Scott Carson in the squad, because they don't have any like sort of they have like a load of youth players on the bench or whatever. Because they're like all the homegrown rules stuff that they've tried to put in, which is good, because then obviously you're not like you're just buying a team from abroad. But if you look at like why is Scott Carson at City? Well, because he's English, trained at an English club, So now like you have all this sort of the English tax as well. Like Declan Rice is not a. How much did he go to Arsenal for?
I think it was 100 mil.
Yeah. He's not an £100 million player, but just because and Jack Grealish as well, same thing, 100 million quid. Just because it's like right, well, like them teams need the because they've spent all the money on Brazilian kids who turned out to be shit. But
also the way like teams who get promoted are treated in another one where like
this is my
yes, to an extent it was a freak thing that like Leicester won the league, but not to the detriment of like how well they played. Like it was almost kind of like, oh, go on, it's a bit cheeky, we'll let you win this year. Even when when Luton came up, it was like, oh, Luton, but like, oh, yeah, probably won't survive in the Premier League. And okay, they didn't, but it felt like, I don't know, I thought like the Luton thing would kind of catch on a bit, and it just ended up sort of fading quite quickly. And
that's Barclays, isn't it?
Yeah.
A team comes, wins in the sales, and then everyone's behind them, kind of, apart from me, York City fan.
But I was saying to your point about Championship, if you remember Barclays back in the day when the Reading used to come up, and because you had your Leroy Leiters, your Steve Sims, your Kevin Doyles. Yes, the quality wasn't amazing, but because Steve Coppell managed to find a system that worked for them, they were able to at least sustain now.
Yeah.
Because there is no identity. We saw Sheffield United, because of the money.
Oh, mate, yeah.
They had to sell their best players. So they've come up to the Prem. They have no chance, no chance whatsoever. So they can't even. Championship teams that come up now, can't really even sustain coming to the Premier League. Like that's when you actually need a coach, not someone who's just gonna follow Pep's ideals. Like that's when you actually need a coach to find the identity and work to the strengths, and that just doesn't happen anymore.
But like, as a fan of a Championship club as well, I thought this season, because Sheffield United had the 2-point deduction waiting for them when they came back down, and I thought right, I think Sheffield United are gonna, because if they've spent all the money, they've got no money, they're gonna be pretty dodgy this season. And the only reason they're not the only reason they're not second is because of the 2-point deduction. Like they've won 3, drawn 1, and like they've got they look miles above most. I think they played Derby on the first day, maybe, or they played somebody and they were just miles above. Like
the 3 that come down, and it's the same. So say if Leicester say if the 3 go down again, they'll just be back up the next season, and it's like the FA have to do something about that.
The parachute payments needs because the amount of times like Saluta now for the next 5 years minimum will be at the top of the Championship just because the money we've got. No?
Are there any phrases like sort of modern football? Like I know we've touched on XG and all the terminology Mike's mentioned. Are there any sort of modern football phrases that you really can't stand, that you really hate?
The one I heard that irks me was field tilt. I've never heard
field tilt.
And I think, I don't know, it was winger. I think it must have been Saka playing, and they're like, oh, but Saka's field tilt when he has the ball goes down the right. I said, what is going on here? If he's a winger, cool. If he's a dominant player, cool. But don't be telling me about field tilt and all of that nonsense there. It's too much. It's definitely field tilt. XG I can kind of cope with because expected goals, cool. But field tilt, nah, we don't need that.
What about any of the refarmed footballing terms that we've always had that have been changed into other ones? So, for example, like your high press, which was just closing down, or a transition, which is tracking back. Do you know what I mean? Things that have always been, but now, I think it was Dean Saunders said it was something about the bench, and he said, you look at the bench and it's just people with laptops that wanted jobs and shove a laptop down the throat, and they come up with all these terms, and we've always had these terms. So have you any of them which?
No, I think overall it's just because I'm a fan of sports as well, so I watch NFL as well, and it's the same when I hear the coaches, they'll get to like a conversion or 4th down and like, okay, we have a 0.0 something chance, and it's like, if your player is good, they don't need that information.
And
I think sometimes the information is just. So,
I think that's the NFL's. Sorry, mate. Go on, Dad.
No, go on.
No, I was going to say NFL's like a perfect example of like something with still got individuality in it, where they just go, hang on, fuck this, I'm running. Fuck you.
It's a 4th and 1 or 3rd and 1, but no, we don't care about the stats. If I have a very good running back, we can run the ball and get a couple yards, and I think with football it's not that. Like that's why we don't see the long range goals, or like I'll look at, and I love him, I love Saka, but sometimes, and he's even said like I need to add a little bit of ISO in the game. It's predictable. I know what's going to happen. You're going to touch it on your left foot. You're going to come on the inside. Odegaard's going to make the like. It's the same thing. And I'm like, eventually now, for you to get to that top level, when you're facing against Ake, against City and whatnot, you do need that little bit of individual. That's something where Arteta's coaching is not going to save you. Like it's just going to be you.
He needs to watch an Iron Robin DVD. You're running down the right wing. All he ever did is come in on the left, but he mastered it. And they still, at the end of his career, couldn't hack it.
Yeah. And I do think Saka he will get his 23, he'll get there. But it's like, I just want more of that because when I played football, I was a winger. So to not see wingers take on people, you got your salaries, your inside forwards, cool. Like you're generational, but just for wingers, like goes back to the cult heroes thing. Zogby are wingers like that. They're like just young at Villa, like class, like proper wingers.
He was brilliant at Villa. Yeah.
So good at Villa.
Yeah. The NFL, I don't know. There's been a debate about that recently with the Tom Brady period at Birmingham and the Americanization of football, which to an extent, has made it more popularly accessible. But going back to the NFL thing of like, I don't know if I'd enjoy, like, I really like the graphic of when a player takes a penalty and it's like save that. Like I enjoy that. But like if Trent Alexander-Arnold was taking a free kick and it said like, oh, he's got like a 56%, I don't know, probability of this going in, or it would really fuck me off to be like, well, there's a chance this is going to go in, or like, oh, this is going to be shit.
He's got a low GCA.
Yeah.
Or,
or
a GSAA. Fuck that. It's like so if you put, you'd have to put sorry, I'm checking it again. GSAA on that save in the World Cup final, wouldn't you? From Emi Martinez against Colo Muani. What was his GSAA there? But he pulled the fucking save off, and you'll think about that save forever. Just him coming out like that, and that's your moments in football. Like, I bet he wasn't thinking about, oh no, my GSAA if I stand here is.
I think as well. Like with you, it's a good point, Mark. Actually, the international football is sort of like, because there's not enough time for the coaches to drill a fucking stupid system like Pep Guardiola's, where it's all encompassing. And they sort of have to go, right, well, play a bit of football. So it's like, I think international football is the last sort of where you see players play a bit with a bit of freedom, just because the coaches haven't got time to coach joy out of them.
Except weirdly England.
Well, yeah.
Weirdly, like if they did play in, so you come up against teams and they say they play the Spanish way or they play the Italian way. If they played the English way and they had Sean Dyche on, they play Anthony Gordon on the right wing, they play Saka on the left wing, they ping balls into Harry Kane, he'd maybe nod one down for Foden to run onto and knock into. Do you know what I mean? But we don't. We kind of play the Italian, Netherlandish way. Do you know what I mean? And it doesn't. Everyone gets confused because they're coming in from Pep's invertedness and Eddie Howe's left side favour, England just don't seem to be.
But you had teams like Switzerland, like you had their entire thing was, right, we're going to defend, then just pass it to Shaqiri, let him do something.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like your identity is kind of formed, isn't it? Like that. First of all, like Morocco did really well at the last World Cup. It was like, guys, we're just going to do this until like it doesn't work anymore.
Fall off,
and you catch a lot of teams off guard by just not adhering to one philosophy or one stuff.
Great point as well with international football, because I feel like when you get to those tournaments, it is the individual brilliance that will win you those tournaments. Like so much coaching can do. So yeah, international football. Weirdly England, but hopefully England get it right, because England are producing midfielders they've never produced before in like Adam Wharton and Kobe Mainoo, etc. So there's hope. But you do need to. England, just teams in general have too much individual. Like when you look at Spain, Spain had a system, but it was like, okay, like we were seeing Spain with dynamic wingers. When have we ever seen Spain with?
Yeah.
They're passing, but they're like, hey, Nico Williams and Lamau, you go. And it just won it. And
have you got like a favourite international tournament, like, or maybe goal that it kind of?
This is James's topic. This is
maybe personifies the era of what we're talking about. Maybe find you.
Great question. I'm thinking my brain always takes me to maybe as a child, but it's World Cup 2002, Brazil, England. I don't think I'll ever forget, because that's the first time I saw Ronaldinho play. And at 10 years old, I even said, this guy's a demon. I've never seen anything like this before in my life. And then when you look at that Brazil team, just Cafu, Gilberto Silva, Ronaldo, like it's just ballers all over the place. So yeah, I'd say it's definitely 2002 or Euro 2004.
Yeah, it kind of felt like that one.
They're Greece winning it. Can you imagine? John?
Yeah. We're literally just playing like shit house football. That 2002 one kind of. I mean, I was 5, but like I do remember watching bits of it and subsequently watching it as I got older. It does feel like the kind of the Streets World Cup, like the street World Cup. I think if that World Cup had been hosted in Brazil, the world would have imploded, because like like you say, it was a chance where you got to watch Ronaldinho, Cafu, Roberto Carlos, a young Kaká, R9, and you had the Nike Cage advert.
You didn't have many other chances to watch these players, and that was the point we made earlier. So you would have the chance. You'd maybe have Football Italia. I think it was on Bravo or Trouble by then. Do you know what I mean? But it wouldn't be chucked on every channel. It wouldn't be YouTube compilations in your face of this player's going to be the best thing. You came and you said, oh yeah, Cafu, he was mint 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
12 years later, Brazil do get to host the World Cup, and you're like, it's like not to discredit Neymar or I mean, it says a lot. But I'm trying to think of other players that are in that team. You know, Oscar and like I'm clutching at straws here. David
Luiz, yeah.
Yeah, like, you know, it's like, oh yeah, it's great, Brazil, like sort of spiritual home of football, lovely stuff. But it kind of felt like, oh, and maybe it is a thing of like, I don't know, when you're a kid, but I don't know. I think like if that era of football, like that Brazil team was absolutely phenomenal.
Something special, and even as I said, to the point of when Ronaldinho and certain Brazilian internationals say we're not playing football, we're not watching the Brazil team anymore.
Yeah.
Yes, obviously their ego is probably like in my era was better, but it does go to show of just how football has even affected them, and how even when you watch Brazil, they're now industrious. It's not that.
He's right. Yeah, it definitely is an ego thing, but he's right.
Yeah.
So.
We can see Ronaldinho, if he was walking to training in his trainers, he'd stop and have a game of footy with people on the street kind of thing. Now, he would still play street football. He would still have a laugh with his football and enjoy his game, whereas he's not. Just like all they do now is go to training, have a little bit of a run around, have a little bit of a sit down, watch the data presentations and go home. The monotonous robots. Whereas, like, you could tell Ronaldinho did the things he did because he just fucking loved it. Do you know what I mean? Like, all the little moves he did. I'm sure he never went, right, I'm going to get the ball, I'm going to turn, I'm going to balance it on my chest, flick it, and then I'm going to make that it look a dickhead. I'm sure he just did it like, oh, wait, oh, shit, I did it. Do you know what I mean? And he just enjoyed the game.
He's another one as well. Like, there's a couple players, if they came up in this era with stats, GA, XG, they would try to discredit because it's like, oh, but he probably only scored 15 goals or 10 to 12 goals a season. And it's like, no,
yeah,
because they were actually affected.
That's my biggest bugbear. That when people they talk about people and say, yeah, he's only got 7 GA on average across his career. Like, it wasn't always that. It was how he got the ball and he played the game.
I saw someone do it with Ryan Giggs, like 950. Like, he only scored 150 goals in 950.
Oh, I know.
Like, there's many things to have a go at Ryan Giggs for. That's not one.
And it's. So you go, James.
I was looking at Totti today, and that I think that 06 Italy team for me is like 1 to 11. Maybe Fabio Grosso being the contention there at left back, but
here's your Capdevia.
Yeah,
They scored the winner.
Well, exactly. Yeah, but you know, from a I don't know what the word is, like global, like stardom and ability. I mean, that obviously launched them into the stratosphere, netting the winner in the semi-final. And I feel like Totti went on like a 5 or 6 season span of averaging maybe sort of like 15 goals a season or something. And then like I've seen people make the argument of like, oh yeah, that's like nothing. Jeez, that's the big problem for me, is like the level of ignorance to like ignore.
It's the one with Paul Scholes has less Premier League assists than Peter Crouch. Like, oh, how can when people are talking about Paul Scholes and how good he was, yeah, but he's got less Premier League assists than Peter Crouch. Yeah, but he wasn't the big fella in the box getting missiles thrown at him to knock down. Do you know what I mean? Paul Scholes was first touch 30-yard volleys into the top corner. He was pinging balls over the top for strikers to run onto. He was breaking up play. He was breaking ankles. Do you know what I mean?
The kids know that Paul Scholes was kind of like a shadow striker when he first started. So he was in the goals. Like, Paul Scholes was the guy before he
played left wing for England, because England notoriously never had a left winger.
Yeah, because England had a... But yeah, like he was.
This is why it's important to the children of today, and that's anyone under the age of 18, to utilize your YouTube and go back and just watch highlights of players that used to play for enjoyment, even so far back as what was the fella called who did the dance in the 1990 World Cup final for Cameroon? Roger Miller. Roger Miller's World Cup. Obviously, go back to watch the 94 World Cup, the Brazilian team there, where Ronaldo had Ronaldinho on the back of his shirt, which is a great stat to chuck out. All the different World Cups, all the different players, Hristo Stoichkov, Georgie Hadji, go watch how they played football. They won't make it nowadays.
I would even say, sorry, James, I'd even say Cristiano Ronaldo an example, because when I used to go Old Trafford, and the difference between him and Real Madrid Ronaldo, like, once again, like, even I speak to some of when I was working at my youth club, and they're like, Ronaldo, I'm like, you didn't even get to see entertainment Ronaldo.
Yes.
Final product. Oh, you weren't seeing Ronaldo do 4 step overs, nutmeg, take it, left foot, top bins. Like, you're seeing Ronaldo, cool, but yeah, like Ronaldo was that.
That is such an incredible point. Do you know what? I think that's maybe revised my opinion. Oh, no, I don't know. He kind of is too good, but that's such a good point of like the younger.
We got entertainment Ronaldo.
Like
we had an era, didn't we?
Against Pompey Ronaldo, like that.
Yes, yeah.
You've just birthed the Cristiano Ronaldo era to make him idolised by us. That's phenomenal work, Dwayne. I'm telling you now. That needs to be in your Twitter bio.
Like him at United, I don't think people, because I think when he got to Robin around 23, 24, I don't think we look back. He was like, it was a different level. That jump from the 06 World Cup, 06 to 08, it was like watching
the AIG shirt.
Yeah, it was something different. And obviously, I get it, because he even said it at the latest Rio Ferdinand interview. He goes, I wanted to score goals, so I had to make a decision, which I get. And there was still some entertainment at Madrid. But that season, 07, 08 at United, and obviously we're talking about one.
I agree.
You can just kind of see from entertainment to, okay, where football was kind of transition.
Amazing point, that. Yeah.
Like,
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's absolutely brilliant, yeah. And like the aesthetics there as well, that AIG shirt, that purple and yellow
spaghetti hair,
Nike ball.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch that after this, I think. That's
T90 era. Well, yeah, I watched because again, Dwayne, was so fun. I watched a match of the day from 2006 earlier on, and Chelsea played Aston Villa. And this is the difference in the type of football. So Villa went 2-0 up. Sean Maloney scored twice. And then Zat Knight got sent off in the 45th minute. And Shevchenko scored a penalty to make it 2-1.
Yes.
Then it went to 2-2. And Villa took it to 3-2. And then it went 4. They equalised. Anyway, Chelsea went ahead. Then Ashley Cole got sent off in the last minute, and it ended up in a 4-4 draw, 3 red cards, 4 stoppage time goals. Chelsea were at the pomp of buying titles. And like just a random Chelsea versus Villa game. And I was like, wow, this is a proper game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because it's what it is with the Premier as well is just that even though we knew, once again, it's not like there wasn't dominant teams. You made the point like United or Chelsea's win the league, but at least it would go down to the last 4 games. I think with City being in the league, we just know they're going to win. Even if they're pushed to the last day, we just know. And as you said, that kind of takes away the fun from those random games, because it's like, say like if Arsenal or Liverpool draw with someone, it doesn't mean anything because we know City's going to win the league. Whereas back in the day, if Chelsea competing with Arsenal,
that's
United,
a great point.
That draw, it means they drop points. It means something. But we know City are going to go on an 18-game unbeaten run.
Yeah.
We're going to get to March and they're just going to win it. So
I thought that last season. I think Arsenal dropped points in January, and that was my first thought. It was like City would. I think had two games in hand.
Over.
And it's almost a failure if they don't win now, though, isn't it?
Arsenal drew against Brighton the other day. Oh well, season's over.
Yeah.
Season's finished.
Yeah,
games in.
It's almost a failure now if they don't win the league, isn't it? As well, which is another horrible thing, because if they don't win a league, it's like, oh well, you should have. Like nobody should have won the league by right. Should win the league, and
that's how I felt in 08-09 when like we beat United at Old Trafford 4-1.
I was there that game. That was horrible.
Sorry.
That was horrible.
My apology from Andre for saying that. But you went on to win the league, but that went down to maybe like the last month, I want to say, or maybe like a couple of weeks. It was McKay goal actually.
It was,
yeah. I remember like that was the first time for a while. Like even my dad and my dad's mates were like listen, like soak this in, because obviously we were not won the league title since 1990, but it was like enjoy this, because this might not happen for a good while. And obviously when we won it in COVID, it was like great, but it kind of took the shine off it that we won it during COVID. Anyway, that's besides the point. I think, like you say, that kind of title races and also final day relegation battles. I think that's kind of a thing of
they are beautiful. They are like you still think back to the West Brom one.
Like some bloke on a radio going.
I've been that guy at York City, stood on the terrace listening about, see if someone's got a radio. What's going on down at Carlisle? Do you know what I mean? And you listen out for it at half time, and the cheers going. Now you've got 3. You've stood with 3 mates. I'm watching. They've been watching a different game each to keep up on it. Do you know what I mean?
There's a trend of people doing fake goals now, like happened at Liverpool. Do you know?
The problem is as well is like after Aguero, like where do you
Shout out
go?
Martin
Just, like,
Tyler.
you've literally reached.
You peaked.
Yeah, like unless you score later,
Yeah.
or unless
you come back from 3-0 down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like you've kind of reached the apex there. You've reached the mountaintop. Like, yeah,
Right. We peaked because then even after that there was a bit of a dip in quality. Obviously, Leicester won the league. I think players were transitioning. There wasn't really anything. Yeah, we peaked. There was nothing. There's a goal in the 96th minute. You can't beat that.
Yeah.
Oh,
you can't.
This has been amazing. I feel like I can't wait for this to go out and people to tweet me and be like, "Is it only now you're realizing Ronaldo was actually good?" I'm like, no, there's different shades of his ability.
Yeah.
The tenaciousness of United compared to his more sort of set piece nature at Real Madrid and his headering ability.
There's certain players, even if you look, that's funny how we talk about Arsenal. It's like when you look at an Alexis Sanchez at Arsenal, if we talk about X Factor and individual talent, if Arsenal had a player like that now, they win the league. You have that.
Yeah.
You don't really.
Yeah, it's almost like we know more than the managers, but it's not. It's they know exactly what they're talking about, and I'm not going to besmirch them for using the systems and the data that they do. It's more what we want, and that's what I was saying about earlier. They need to look inwards at what the community wants.
But
we don't want popcorn in the stands. We don't want like you say, just processed football. We want Portsmouth with an Andres D'Alessandro. We want a Hatem Ben Arfa at Newcastle. We want a Sanchez at Arsenal. We want to see these players. We want a Nabil El-Zar at Liverpool. But that's it. That's the nail on the head. We want these players to excite us.
Yeah.
And the thing is though with it, it's like I think like why this data is so much and so frequent. It's because obviously they're shit scared of losing their jobs. There's loads of money on the line. There's like, you know, if you have so like Sean Dyche, right, if he gets sacked by Everton after a few bad games, he probably will, but he could not. There's potential he could never work in football again. Do you know what I mean?
Well, they besmirch the names, don't they? Look at Graham Potter, who's
like David Moyes. David Moyes might
such high regard prior to going to Chelsea, and then all of a sudden he has a couple of bad ones, and that happens with players, and that's an English thing, that because you get players that come across to England, maybe don't do as well, go back abroad, and everyone's like, oh, he's mint. Like Renato Sanchez. Renato Sanchez ruined his legacy because he came on over here on loan to Swansea as a kid. He was never going to do any good. So automatically, he's shit now. Like,
I think that's a great point about Cultras as well. I just don't think we give them time. And it goes back to the whole, there's so much money in the game. I can't afford to experiment because if I lose 5 in a row, I may never work again.
Yeah.
And that's not going, James.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. But also, like, I said Bob Mortimer talk about this in Atletico Mints, where he's like, in the noughties, like managers would view it as like a kind of destroy and exit job, where like you'd have a kind of circle of managers like Bruce Allardyce,
Alan Partridge.
and it'd be like they'd all meet up and go, oh, it's not really going well at like Wolves, but it's fine because like I'll just fucking grab the team, get them relegated, and Bolton won't be at the end of the season. So it was like you could literally just like bounce around. Whereas like now. Yeah, maybe Chelsea's a good example of that. Like, just kind of under so much scrutiny in the space of a month, it's like, well, you know, what do you want me to do about it?
No, you need time, and it's like that reflects in coaches' tactics. Like, I'm sure some of them they see things in training that I'd love for you to do this on the pitch, but if you lose the ball and like we keep on seeing this pattern, the ball is going to be on me. So
yeah, exactly.
Right, we've put the world to rights here.
I think we have.
Before we go to it, I'd like to ask you: do you have a favourite kind of Barclays moment player? Got like what when you think Barclays, what's the one thing that makes you think of it, or the one moment?
Random. Anton Ferdinand's volley against Fulham.
That's a great shout.
That's what we want.
That comes from my brain.
Yeah, phenomenal.
That side with Marlon Harewood, Yosebe Ayub, Nigeria Kokor, and Anton Ferdinand, Paul Konchesky. Yeah, that's that. I don't know why that's but that volley against it's funny because he's a centre back. But yeah, job served West Ham. Upton Park, West Ham.
Yeah, that's one. I think that's one of the greatest tragedies of modern football. Upton Park being swapped for the Olympic Stadium. Well,
Yeah.
One of my good friends, he was a West Ham fan. We used to go because he just used to have spare tickets, and it was amazing.
Identity back to that as well.
Yeah, facts.
And can I just say as well again before we go, Dwayne, thanks so much for the video you put on TikTok again.
Yeah,
just to see the joy that you had. Do you know what I mean? That's exactly what it was, like the permanent grin you had on your face, and that got across to your followers and that. And hopefully you gained a few more off that as well to follow you and listen to your music and things. So yeah, thanks again for that.
Where can people find you, mate? Where's best for what? Yeah.
Social medias and all that stuff. So it's just D-Wain, so D33Wain on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, on Spotify as well. But I appreciate you lot for just doing God's work during the international. I didn't want another boring debate of who's better.
We've got something planned for the next international break as well, Squire. Don't you worry.
So I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, mate. That was a pleasure.
Cheers,
Thank you very much.